Greetings and thank you for tuning in to Mr. Story Channel, where you can experience the most fascinating moments on Reddit. It's time for our first story. Am I the jerk for asking my wife in front of her family why she bothered having a father for our kids when she clearly wanted to be a single mother? I, 37 male, have been married for 6 years, and I have 2 children, 4 male and 1 male, with my wife. So I admit our marriage hasn't been good for a while, since the pregnancy with our first child, but it never seemed so bad before that I would have considered leaving or wanted to confront her about things. But now I feel like something needs to change, and I have brought this up to her already when it was just the 2 of us, but more recently I made a comment in front of her family that might make me the jerk. So I'll explain. My wife does not like to make things equal with the kids. It started with naming them. She chose both our kids' names, and I really had no influence. The one time I did speak my mind about it was when I said I would love the name Jamie for one of our children. She told me she could not see Jamie as a grown man, and his name would be Thomas, not the actual name but used as an example. I asked her why she chose it without me when we had agreed that baby names should be chosen together. She said she thought we had both changed our minds because she was giving birth. One time I was out getting baby supplies, and I could not find the brand of diapers we used. So I picked up another brand after looking at reviews on my phone. My wife didn't like my choice and told me I should have asked her what to get, or better yet, I should have gone to however many stores to find the one she wanted to use instead of giving up after 2. Over time, she has become more dismissive of my parenting and place in our boys' lives. She has said she will decide what extracurriculars they do. She will decide food in school. It gets on my nerves. My oldest and I play house together, and it bothers her. She told me we should be kicking a ball around. She freaked out when I bought our oldest son a lilac shirt because she said it didn't go with the look she likes to give him. She dresses him in red and black or blue and black. She has outfits styled and organized, and I went against that when I bought him the shirt he wanted. The day before we were at her parents' house, and that day as well, we were arguing because I told her I didn't like the idea of our oldest doing so many extracurriculars right away, and I thought we should let him experiment and have fun. She told me it was her decision. This is something we had discussed prior to kids, and she was not so forceful about it then. Though I knew extracurriculars were a priority for her, and that was fine with me, she knew I didn't believe they should be a burden for kids. So we're at dinner, and she's telling her parents about our fight and what was going on, saying how I should default to her as their mother, and they're agreeing with her and asking me why I try to interfere, and that's not the role of the father. I turned around and asked her why she bothered having a father for them when she clearly wanted to be a single mother. They were all furious with me for the question. So, am I the jerk? Now let's see what the community have to say about it. Not the jerk. First, she has decided to be a single mother without you. Second, changing her mind and try to control every single aspect of your kids' lives. Third, I want you to turn into nothing but an ATM. Fourth, air your fight to her parents. If I were you, I would nip this stupid act right now before she turns you into a villain or someone who is not at all needed in her kids' lives. You only have some years to bond with your kids. Why would you want to waste those away? And worst of all, they are still small. But what if they start picking up questions from your wife? What if they also start believing that you are just a male figure who happens to be their mom's husband and who has absolutely no say? What if they get older? What about punishments? The talk? There is so much more that is about to happen in your kids' lives. Don't let your wife get away with this. Fight for your rights as a parent if you must. Do what you need to do. Tell me in the comments below what you think Opie should do. If you are enjoying these stories, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. This helps a lot. Thanks. And for our next story. Steal furniture? You almost lost your job. So my dad owns a house that he's been renting for some time now. The tenants that live there were, for the most part, decent people who my dad thought were trustworthy. That all changed about 2 months into the tenancy when the tenant refused to pay the month's rent. My dad showed some leniency and gave them another month to pay up what was owed. They didn't pay a thing. By this point, my dad, frustrated by the whole situation and being 2 months out of rent, offered them a deal. Leave the house ASAP and then only pay half the money owed. They countered with a different agreement. They would leave the house in a clean state with all of their furniture left behind as compensation. My dad, wanting to just be done with them, agreed. Q2 when my dad gets to the house, finding the place in a mess, with none of the furniture left behind, including the furniture that belonged to my dad in the first place. The 2 sofas that my dad owned were left behind, but they were trashed and left in the shed. When my dad confronted them, asking for them to pay up the full amount that the furniture was worth, he was met with a promise of payment after 2 weeks, which he didn't believe. And when he requested they pay earlier, he was met with "good luck getting your money," followed by laughing emojis. This made my dad angry, and he decided that he wasn't going to let this slide. My dad knew that the tenant was a Christian pastor of a church, and his son also had some job related to the church. My dad contacted the church and explained everything, from how they hadn't paid him rent money to stealing the furniture and trashing the place. The church was somewhat interested in this behavior. The next day, my dad gets an angry phone call from the tenant's son, cursing at him and asking him what he thought he was doing, contacting the church and saying he was being unfair. My dad hung up on him only for him to attempt to ring 10 times after he hung up. From what we could piece together, the church had told the pastor that if he didn't settle things with my dad, he and his son would lose their jobs. My dad received the full amount for the furniture that same day and agreed to back off. My dad later said it was never about the money but the way this guy treated him and his values. My dad, being a Christian himself, was disappointed. Next story. Am I the jerk for not siding with my fiancé after my parents wanted to invite 8 more guests? I, 27 female, and my fiancé, 30 male, are getting married in September. Originally, we wanted to have a reception with 85 guests, but the venue I really wanted stated we had to invite 100 guests. So, we went ahead with the venue I wanted and invited 100 people. After the invitations had been sent out, my parents were upset to find out we did not invite 4 of their closest friends and their spouses, 8 people in total, but they thought it would not be a big deal to ask us to invite these 8 people. My parents are extremely generous, and I am very spoiled. For this wedding alone, they have brought forward $10,000, pays for more than half the wedding, and my mom paid for my wedding dress. And their generosity goes beyond what they have paid for the wedding, helping me get through university debt-free, paying a portion of our house down payment, helping me buy a new car, and just all around being there for me emotionally. And for all this, I want to invite these guests to make them happy, as it would make me happy, and I want to show them that I appreciate all they have done for me. It's much easier than paying them back, LOL. My fiancé does not share this opinion and insists this wedding cannot go above 100 guests. He agreed to invite them after the RSVP date, provided space became available, but I really think most guests invited will RSVP yes. I explained to him that I wanted to show my parents my appreciation for all they had done for me, but he said he would rather give them their money back than invite these 8 guests. We have had several arguments, and I have shed many tears over this issue, but he will not budge. He thinks my parents are the AH because of the last-minute attempt to change our guest list, and I think he is the AH for being unreasonably stubborn. And perhaps I am the AH for not taking his side on this. After all, it was me who wanted the bigger venue. Am I the Jahir? Edit. My parents are not these filthy rich people or anything. They are hardworking, self-made people who continue to work and save to get where they are today. Growing up, we were actually lower middle class, and my parents have only recently found success. They do not go on trips or treat themselves. They just want me and my siblings to be happy. My fiancé grew up more well-off than me, until his parents decided to go through with the world's messiest divorce. When the list was 85 people, the invite list was lopsided in my direction, as I have a huge family. All 15 extra people are from his side. There are 46 guests from his side and 54 from my side. My parents and my fiancé have gotten along very well up until this. My parents love him and he loves them. We were a happy family before this riffraff. He still tells me he loves my family, but right now we are having an argument. Any advice is welcome to help me navigate this situation. Thanks. Next story. Am I the jerk if I sell my youngest daughter's car to help cover my oldest tuition? Hello guys, I don't normally post on these kinds of things, so I don't know all of the labeling and acronym conventions and things that I see people using in other posts. I am 55 male. My daughters are 21 female and 17 female. My oldest is finishing up her junior year of college at a very good school. We are all very proud of her. She has a full-ride academic scholarship that is dependent on her GPA. Well, she says based on her current grades, after this semester her GPA will dip below the cutoff, and after extensive back and forth on the phone with the school, they say it is contractual and we will be obligated to pay next year's tuition. If she gets her GPA back above the threshold next semester, we can apparently readdress the situation to determine if her scholarship can be reinstated for the final semester of school. When I tell you we bent over backwards trying to find a solution before we came to the one we did. We've done the math, and she can't get her grades up with how much of the semester is left. She also can't take enough credits during the summer based on how the summer classes are structured to raise her GPA high enough even if she got A's. And the school refuses to make any exceptions. Of course, we were upset with her for allowing this to happen, and we had a long talk with her, and she's upset at herself too. But she's a very smart kid who really struggled with her mental health from sophomore year into junior year, and it affected her grades. Under no circumstances did we want her to leave college with only 1 year left. That just truly would not be fair to her after how hard she has worked. For my youngest's 17th birthday back in December, we got her a brand new Toyota RAV4. This was somewhat of a gift given the fact that she has also been working really hard in school and getting great grades. She's finishing up her junior year as well and has begun the application process for college. The car was big deal, and she was very happy to have it, and she has been driving it nonstop. Well, this week, her mom and I sat her down and told her that we're very sorry, but if we can't find another solution, we have to sell her car to help cover the oldest tuition. Mind you, the cost of this car will cover probably 1/3 of the tuition for 1 full year after FAFSA, probably less with the value depreciation. She became extremely upset and told us that it was unfair that we were rewarding our oldest for failing and punishing her for succeeding, and whose car would we sell if the same happened to her? But we never wanted her to feel punished or for our oldest to feel rewarded. It's just the reality of what we need to do right now. If the same happened to her, we would do everything in our power to help. So, please tell me if I would be a jerk for selling the car. Am I wrong to try to help my younger daughter in this situation? Am I the jerk for trying to take back $80,000 of the $160,000 my spouse spent behind my back? My husband spent $160,000 investing in baseball cards without telling me. During this same time, he would get mad at me for spending money on meal plans or salon services. I would get yelled at for my disrespectful spending and my financial goals not aligning with his, so he'd say. He spent most of this on his personal credit card, which he paid for with our joint account. For a long time, I didn't have access to our online banking, so I didn't see the amounts he was paying on his credit card. Whenever I would question a $2 or $4,000 payment, he would have some excuse and usually say it was at the family or grocery store. He would refuse to show me his statements. One day, while driving to lunch, he mentioned how my friends owed him for the concert tickets I had used his card to buy. I agreed to get the money from them. In mentioning the card, though, I remember just seeing another $4,000 payment come out of our joint. This was 2 months ago, when he promised he had a $2,000 balance and was going to pay it off and stop using it. So I asked, I thought it was going to be paid off a couple months ago. That was all it took. He launched into me about how I ruin everything. We can't just enjoy the day. This is why my relationships never work, on, and dropped me back off at our house and left. It was this outburst that made me realize there was more going on. After lots of back and forth and digging and finally getting him to give me access to his credit card statements, I added up $160,000 in the 3 years that he spent. I already realized the financial abuse that has taken place on many levels, and there is so much I'm not including. During all of this, my husband met with a divorce lawyer, who then begged me for another chance. That was about a year ago. We are still together, but as you can imagine, financial issues are only one of many issues we have. At the time I realized what he had spent and that I was so ill-prepared for a divorce, I started transferring money from our joint account to my personal account every month. My goal, over time, is to take my half back, $80,000, and invest how I want to. He was, of course, mad, but I basically said, oh well, he should have considered me when he spent it, and I was only correcting a wrong. Recently, he made sure the money wasn't in the account when my transfer was scheduled. He did this 2 months in a row and said I could no longer do it. I waited for the money to be there and did the transfer anyway. He went nuts, telling me I'm a rat, he's selling the house, dissolving our business, etc. He says that it's wrong for me to go tit for tat and that I should let it go. The money is just sitting in my account, as I have not spent any of it. Am I the asshole for trying to take my half back over time? Next story. Am I the jerk for naming my son after my father instead of my father-in-law? I, 26 female, recently had twins with my husband Harry, 30 male. I love my babies so much, but the labor was a nightmare. It was extremely traumatic for my husband and me, and we've agreed that we are definitely not having any more kids. I was laboring for 2 days, and throughout the process, we kept our families updated. When they were finally able to visit, my parents and my in-laws came to see us. Everyone was fussing over the babies, and my poor husband, who only had about 4 hours of sleep for the whole 2 days, was napping. My dad, however, sat by me first and just held my hand for a bit. When I told him to go get some cuddles in with the twins, he said, "I'm here to see my baby," meaning me. It was honestly so sweet, and I started tearing up. I didn't even realize how invisible I felt when my husband was sleeping and my dad was there to make sure I was also being taken care of. He took me down to the hospital cafe, and we had breakfast together while the babies were with everyone else. I kept thinking about what my dad did for the next few days, and I decided that I would give my newborn son my father's name as his middle name. My husband was totally on board with this. However, this is where the problem began. We knew my father-in-law would be pretty pissed at this. He always wanted a grandson named after him, but it's pretty clear now he won't get one. He has 2 sons, my husband and his younger brother, and my brother-in-law is gay and currently says he doesn't want to adopt kids in the future. My father-in-law is also one of those people who cares about bloodlines, so I don't think he'd want an adopted grandson named after him. My husband has a complicated relationship with his father, so he wasn't comfortable naming our son after him, but we agreed to give them the same initials so they'd both be AHD. He accepted this, but when he found out we were switching the middle name for my father, he lost his mind. He said that this was something he always wanted, and we were throwing it in his face by giving the baby my father's name as his middle name. I tried to explain why, but he cut me off and said that it was absurd to expect someone to check on me when there were babies that had just been born, and my father shouldn't be rewarded for ignoring his grandchildren. I tried to explain that it was more than just the moment because my dad has been my best friend for my whole life, but he didn't want to hear it. Mother-in-law is saying we are the jerks for doing this because my dad doesn't care about any grandchildren being named after him, but his father-in-law has always wanted it. According to her, we are taking something away from him just because my dad chose to do something unusual, which to them was ignoring the babies until he was satisfied with me being okay. He did not ignore the kids. He got plenty of cuddles in when we got back from breakfast. My dad is honored by our choice, but thinks we shouldn't have done it because of what it means to be a father-in-law. Next story. Am I the jerk for getting mad at my parents for focusing on my dead grandma when it's my birthday? The title makes me sound like a jerk, but I want outside opinions. To start off, my grandma and I, 17 male, shared a birthday. She was my favorite person, and I loved that we shared a birthday together. She always got me the best stuff. Sadly, she died 4 years ago, a month before our birthday. I was 13 and heartbroken. We didn't celebrate my birthday because it brought too many emotions. I was fine with this because I was grieving as well, and I didn't want to celebrate without her. Well, this happened the second year as well. I get that it was a year, so it was fine. I will admit that I expected a make-up birthday on a different day, but it never came. Everyone else had their birthdays and got amazing gifts, parties, and whatnot. The third year, I actually set up a bunch of plushies that my grandma loved and a picture of her on our dining room table, so she could celebrate with us in memory. The morning of my birthday, I came downstairs and was immediately scolded for trying to have fun on a sad day. I went back up to my room without saying anything and played Zelda, Breath of the Wild for the rest of the day. My birthday was within the last week, not specifying for safety reasons, and my parents told me to get dressed in something smart because we were going somewhere special. I was super excited because I thought that my family would finally acknowledge me on my birthday. After about a 20-minute drive, we reached this garden that my grandma loved. It was her favorite place in the world, and I came here often with her. The whole family was there when we arrived, but there were no happy faces. It turns out we went there to be sad, to just sit in silence. No one even said hello to me. I had enough and yelled at them all, and accused them of not caring about me anymore. I went on a rant. A lot of my words probably weren't coherent because of how upset I was. After I had finished yelling, I went back to our car and sat next to it after forgetting the keys. Ever since then, I have received a load of messages from the family members of whom I have the numbers, all telling me I'm a jerk. I asked my friends, but they've shared their dislike for my family, so they're probably biased. I just want an outside opinion. So, am I the jerk now? Hey everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching until the end. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed what you saw and want to stay updated on future content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. By subscribing, you'll be the first to know when I release new videos, and you'll be helping to support my channel. So, go ahead and click that subscribe button, and let's keep this journey going together. Thanks again for your support.